Hey YouTube, it's me DB, and today I'm going to start a special series where I teach you how to play the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, or how to duel. So, first of all, you're going to need a standard 40 card deck, at least 40 cards, and maximum cards that you can have is 60. So I do have one right here, as you can tell by all the sleeves. And these first 3 episodes will focus on what kind of cards that you should have in your deck. This first episode will focus on the monsters that you can have in it. And by the way, this particular deck is called your main deck. This is the deck that you'll be using most of the time when you are dueling. So let's see one more time, I'm showing it off to you. I'll place it right here, right off to the screen, side of the screen. So let me talk to you about the 4 basic monsters that you can have in your main deck. First one is called the normal monster. And there are a few points that you must remember about each and every type of monster that'll help you out during your game. The first point is located right here in the top right hand corner, right next to the monster card's name. That is its attribute. I believe there are at least 6 different types of attributes for every monster. There's water, earth, fire, wind, and light and darkness. And you can let me know in the comments if I missed out on one, if you already know. Alright, so why are these points important? Well, it's because there are certain cards in the game, either monsters, spells, or trap cards, that will affect different parts of the monster card. And if you have a card that will affect your monster's attribute, you could look for the attribute right here in the top right hand corner. And if, for example, that card said, if you have a light attribute monster in your hand, you can special summon it. That effect means you can special summon this monster, since this is a light attribute monster, right away. So that's basically what's up there. So the next part is the name. You see it's the Blue Eyes White Dragon, for example. And if there's any cards that you have or your opponent has that affects your monster by its name, that's where you will find the name, right here in the top next to the attribute. For example, one of the other cards I'm going to show you does have an effect that involves the name Blue Eyes. If a card effect has a certain part of a name listed as its effect, then all you would need to do is look up a card with a name, right up top here again, and then you can do that effect. If you have to destroy it, then you can put it in your graveyard. If you can add it to your hand, you can do that. Special summon it, you can do that too. Now these stars right below the name and the attribute right here represent your monster's level. The more stars that a monster has, the more powerful or effective that monster could be. And these also tell you how you can summon your monsters as well. I'm going to be talking more about that when we get to the dueling part of the series. So next up is the picture. It's like a pretty cool picture. Helps you let you know what the monster looks like. And right down here is its text box. Since this is a normal monster, the text box will just have some special flavor to it. And right down here is one of the very most important parts about your monster card. The attack points on the left and defense points on the right. If your monster is summoned just like this, vertically, then you use its attack points. If its monster is summoned like this, horizontally, you use its defense points. That determines how strong your monster is in terms of attack and defense. And there are some cards out there that affect your monster's attack and defense points. They can either raise them or lower them, even lower them down to exact 0. Alright, so that's about the normal monster. The effect monster has the same things as the normal. Its name, its attribute, its level. But instead of a flavor text in the text... oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one more part. This part right here, right below the picture, to the bottom left-hand corner, that's the type of monster that you have. So, for example, this card is a spellcaster type, but its effect works with Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes White Dragon is a dragon type. And I'll get into why this card has the word tuner next to it when we talk about the extra deck zone in a later episode. Alright, so, and that's also another important thing to remember, especially when you want to special summon some special monsters from your extra deck. Now, again, I'll talk about the extra deck in a later episode. But the main focus here is that I wanted you to look at this. This card has a certain effect. When this card is targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack, and if you do, change the battle position of this card. Then you can special summon one Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So this card is really useful in Blue Eyes White Dragon decks, or decks that do utilize the Blue Eyes White Dragon monster. Alright, so in order to meet its effect, you have to meet its requirements first. So for example, if this card is set face down, and it gets attacked, you can then flip it face up, and then use its effect to negate your opponent's attack, and switch your monster into attack position, and summon your Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's really a very easy way to get out your Blue Eyes White Dragon, but that's just one of the many, many effects that different effect monsters can have. But remember, you must meet the effect monster's requirements in order for you to use that effect monster's effect. Same goes true for spell and trap cards too. Alright, next card is this card with a blue background. This is called a Ritual Monster. And this is a very special card that can be either a normal monster or an effect monster. But the way you have to summon this guy is through a means of a special spell card. You can use the card called Advanced Ritual Art, but if you don't have that card, then you must use the card that's listed on the Ritual Monster, which is Chaos Form in this case. There'll be other different types of ritual spells out there for you to use if you want to use a Ritual Monster in your deck. And once you use the ritual spell, you have to have at least enough monsters on your side of the field in order to sacrifice them to special summon your ritual monster. But I'll get more into that when we get to the dueling part of this series. Now you see, this guy has a special effect. So this guy has to be ritual summoned and cannot be special summoned by other effects. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, you get to inflict piercing damage to your opponent, but like I said, we're going to talk about that in the dueling part of this series. Alright, the fourth and final kind of monster that you can have is this card. This is called a Pendulum Monster. Now this Pendulum Monster is quite different from the other monsters. It has two effects listed instead of one. The top effect is your Pendulum effect. That effect comes into play when you place this monster in one of your two pendulum zones. Now this mat here is detailing the pendulum zones on the left and on the right, but thanks to the new rules, they moved the pendulum zones to the spell and trap card zones. So you can use up 2 of your 5 available spell and trap zones for pendulum monsters. And you see the 2 numbers right on its sides? That's its pendulum scale. Now this card I had to get from one of my other decks because my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck doesn't use any pendulum monsters. But I just wanted to get this out just to show you what it looks like. And if you summon this card in one of your main monster zones, you can use the bottom effect. And once this card gets destroyed, it doesn't go to your graveyard. goes directly to your extra deck, so you can use it to pendulum summon it back to the field. And again, remember the two numbers that I mentioned before, the pendulum scales? Well, if you use this card, along with a card with a lower pendulum scale, you can then special summon any monsters whose levels fit between the scales. Like, for example, if I were to put this level pendulum scale 8 monster card on my right pendulum zone, and a pendulum scale 1 on my left, I can special summon any monsters that have any levels between 2 through 7. And that's why it's important to remember the level of your monster as well. So that way you can easily special summon any sort of big time monsters that can help you out during the game. Like, for example, if this card was actually a level 9, and I had a level 2 in my pendulum zone, I could then special summon my Blue Eyes White Dragon, because it would fit in the pendulum scale because of its level of 8. Alright folks, so that's the type of monsters that you can have in your regular deck. And in the next episode, I will be showing you the spell and trap cards that you can use in your regular deck as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm DB, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye!